The NAACP conducted a long campaign in the courts, beginning in the 1920s and before, and through the 1930s and 40s, to achieve the equal protection of the laws, to make the 14th Amendment apply to everyone. Step by step, they defeated aspects of segregation, ultimately winning their greatest victory in 1954 with their Brown decision that declared segregation in schools to be inherently unconstitutional and an abridgment of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. But segregation still pervaded many aspects of life in the United States, especially in the southern states. To overcome it, African Americans formed organizations that turned to direct actions such as protest and boycotts. The most famous one, and probably the initial one that everyone knows best, was the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. And that was followed by sit-ins in restaurants and meeting places and movie theaters and other public places. Then there were freedom rides on buses throughout the South, and there were street demonstrations in the early 1960s. America was convulsed at that time in the early 1960s with the struggle for civil rights, with this question of, were we going to live up to our creed? Were we going to apply the rights that had been promised at the time of the American Revolution to all Americans? In August 1963, at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of having a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, giving the most memorable American speech of the 20th century. King called on America to fulfill its promise to guarantee those unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He tied together the American Revolutionary period and the Civil Rights Movement in a very memorable day, an August afternoon in Washington, D.C. With the victory of the Civil Rights Movement, the rights promised in the Declaration, the rights born with the American Revolution, became the common property of all Americans. Over those 200 years, no group of Americans had been more steadfast in their devotion to the core beliefs of the Declaration and more determined to make it a universal reality than African Americans. Their struggle and achievement links the American Revolution and the Civil Rights Movement.